This is Camponotus herculeanus. The sight of the black carpenter ant must be terrifying to other ant species. The carpenter ant can be up to 1.6 centimeters long, making it Europe's biggest species. It likes to live in rotting wood, it eats flies and mosquitoes, and if you bother it, it will bite you. Ant dealer Martin Sebasta thinks ants make cute pets.
What's fascinating about ants is their social life. There is constant communication among them. They create something together. They expand the nest or bring in food or share the food. They have different occupations, and it's always fascinating to watch them.
Sebasta, a trained industrial mechanic, has been fascinated by ants since he was a teenager. In 2003, he opened up his own ant shop in Berlin, the first in Germany. It has more than 20 species. They come from all over the world. Sebasta has between 10 and 20,000 colonies in stock. That includes some exotic species like the South American leafcutter ant, which can carry 30 times its own body weight. The leaves feed a fungus, which in turn becomes the ant's dinner.
The leafcutter ant's nests can be so huge. In nature, they can be as large as 50 square meters and 8 meters deep. Sometimes private owners can no longer handle the colony after 2 years, so we get them in touch with the zoo. That needs to be considered.
Bianca Drenska also has a fondness for exotic ants. The biology teacher has 16 different species in her Berlin apartment. For example, the South American Pachyscondila apicalis, an aggressive predator that stings like a wasp. Could this be the ideal house pet?
There are a number of reasons why I think it's a good pet. I can create a beautiful landscape. I can't do that with a dog or a cat. I am fascinated by this mini ecosystem. It isn't expensive to feed ants, just a few grasshoppers and sugar water. And they're not loud.
So, they are a comparatively inexpensive pet. Though a queen from this Australian species costs €160. And there is another disadvantage to keeping ants. The exotic species cannot legally be allowed into the domestic ecosystem.
First, you should ask, are these ants under some form of legal protection? Is the species endangered? You shouldn't try to maintain a colony if the species is endangered. And then, are there any permits required? Australia is very strict about what you can bring into or out of the country.
So, a beginner shouldn't start with an exotic species, but a domestic one, like these ants. Martin Sebasta produces and sells starter sets from €50 up. Sebasta delivers the ants with 2 terrariums and all the necessary equipment. 1 queen and 1 worker ant are enough to produce a colony of thousands.
Ultimately, we see ants outdoors, but we don't see what they do inside their nest. We just see an ant dragging something into it. But then what happens? If I open or destroy an ant nest, all I see is a swarming throng.
And that's why Martin Sebasta regards the ant as the best house pet. His shop now has 10 employees. They take orders and send ants all over Europe.